With 6 seasons of Outlander under our belts, we can honestly say that we've gotten to know Sam Heughan's Jamie Fraser pretty well. But as with all of our favorite characters, there can never be enough details to make those characters feel more real. And Jamie is no exception, of course. From Jamie's real tartan colors to the real dunbonnet, these are the hidden details of Jamie Fraser from Outlander that everyone missed. When we first met Jamie, we found out that Jamie had been framed for murder, and he was desperately trying to find out the real offender. But given the fact that we were all a bit concerned about Katrina Balfe's well-being at the time, as she was kind of in danger, being in Fort William and all, it may have escaped you that it was revealed that it was Tobias Menzies' Blackjack Randall who had been behind it all along. Which makes Randall even more evil than we always knew he was. Not only did he flog Jamie almost to death, he had framed him for the murder in the first place. It led to Jamie being separated from his loved ones for years, and his reputation in tatters. So it really is no wonder that Jamie had a deep hatred for the man long before Randall also attempted to break his soul. And to make matters even worse, Randall was ultimately the reason that Jamie's father died as well. Technically, Brian Fraser died of apoplexy. But if it hadn't been for Randall and his sadistic need for dominance, Brian never would have had to witness his son being flogged to shreds. And what ultimately caused Brian to die was his belief that he had just witnessed his son being flogged to death. Jamie didn't die, of course, but he did harbor feelings of deep guilt for years afterwards. In Jamie's eyes, it was his fault that his father had died, and I can hardly blame him. Things could have gone radically different if only he hadn't rebelled. But would he still have met Claire? Or killed his own uncle? Originally, Jamie was supposed to kill Graham McTavish's Dougal Mackenzie alone. At the end of Diana Gabaldon's book, Dragonfly and Amber, Jamie kills the war chieftain after the attempted attack on Claire. But in the series, Jamie and Claire commit the crime together. It's been revealed that they chose to make this drastic change from the books because the showrunners wanted to see the couple work as a team one last time before getting separated. And this way, they truly did carry the burden of Dougal's murder on both their shoulders. Because if there's one thing we know about Jamie, it's the fact that the guilt would have consumed him if he had been tasked to carry that on his own. So, it really makes a lot of sense that they decided to have Claire by his side during this pivotal moment in Jamie's story. It's exactly where she's supposed to be anyway. But even though the change in how Dougal was murdered was one of the first major breaks the showrunners made from the books, there are a few other details that probably escaped you if you don't know any better. For example, Jamie is wearing the complete wrong clan colors. Outlander is really good at highlighting certain aspects of important Scottish tradition, like having the characters celebrating their heritages. But there are a few things that slipped through the cracks, which is only normal when you're dealing with a show that is as big as Outlander. And if you have no clue about Scottish clan colors, you probably never would have noticed. But according to the official Clan Fraser website, Jamie should really have been wearing a green and red tartan kilt. Obviously, that's not what his kilt looks like in the series. But again, there was a good reason for the change. Terry Drabach has admitted in an interview that Jamie's kilt doesn't match up with the clan. But they just had to make a few compromises because apparently red dye was quite expensive, especially back in the day. Which is a bit of a shame considering how much time and effort really goes into the making of an Outlander that is as historically accurate as possible. But not the worst change they could have made. Speaking of Jamie's kilt, even though it may just seem like an unconventional piece of clothing to people who aren't familiar with Scottish clothing at all, there were times when it was actually illegal for people in Scotland to wear a kilt of any kind. And this shows in Season 3 of the series. At the beginning of the season, you may have noticed that our dashing Scott has exchanged his kilt for trousers and suits. And there's an actual real-life reason for it as well. In 1746, both the kilt and tartan were outlawed by the English soldiers in 1746, following the brutal fight at Culloden. It was called the Dress Act, which fell under the Act of Proscription in 1746. The main reason was because it was seen as a sign of sedition, and this was probably very true, because Jamie's kilt is definitely a celebration of his Scottish identity. And as Jamie was planning to quietly carry on some of his more adventurous, albeit illegal business, it was a very smart move of the Highlander to keep a bit of a low profile. And I can only imagine how much it must have pained the people of Scotland to live through something like that in real life. And did I mention that Hewin actually has to dye his hair in order to truly look like Jamie? It's true! Hewin isn't a natural redhead. He's actually a natural blonde and had to dye his hair to create that flaming red hair that he is so well known for in the books. I didn't see that one coming. It looks so good on the actor. But there was just no way that they could leave Hewin's hair his natural color, with as many important storylines connecting back to Jamie's hair being flaming red. Because his character was actually inspired by a few men who were very real. Jamie's arc is loosely inspired by an actual Scottish soldier who somehow managed to survive the Battle of Culloden. Just like in the books, a group of Jacobite officers had taken refuge in a farmhouse at the side of the bloody field. They were supposed to be taken out and shot, but one of them survived because he was never shot. In the books, Jamie was the only one to survive as well, but only because John Grey's brother sent him back to his home to honor a debt. Which is just one of those details that gives me crazy goosebumps. But that's not the whole story either. Because in real life, there was also a Dunbonnet. As you probably remember, Jamie sent himself into solitary hiding after the Battle of Culloden. I mean, what else was he supposed to do, knowing the Crown definitely saw him as a traitor? Jamie ended up spending many years in the forest, and he eventually became known as the Dunbonnet to the locals, owed to them catching a glimpse of Jamie, or at least his beautiful red hair. But there really was a real James Fraser that also went by the alias the Dunbonnet. The story goes that he spent 7 years in hiding, surviving only on the locals being kind enough not to allow Jamie to starve to death. As you can see, Gabaldon took shaping Jamie Fraser into a fully fleshed-out character very seriously. And it shows! And that's all on the hidden details about Jamie Fraser from Outlander that everyone missed.